Hi everyone, my name is Aled Phillips, Chartered Financial Planner and Operations Director. Today I'm going to run through some frequently asked questions that have come in from CashCalc users regarding our new Monte Carlo simulator, as well as some asset allocation questions as well. The Monte Carlo tool is a financial modelling tool running 10,000 scenarios using set parameters such as a client's asset predicted growth, resulting in likely outcomes. This allows you to determine the likelihood that the financial plan will meet your client's objectives using historical data to project future outcomes. Using a large number of simulations will give us a wide range of outcomes, which in turn will result in more accurate results and consistency. This means that if a calculation is run with the same parameters, then results should be broadly similar regardless of the amount of times that the calculation is run. No one method is better than the other, however, they can be complementary. For optimum projections, we recommend that you use both. The intention is not to replace linear projections, but to test the likelihood of the financial planning outcomes being achieved. Using Monte Carlo simulation alongside cash flow modelling will reinforce the assumptions you've made in the linear or variable forecast. Stochastic modelling complements the existing cash flow scenarios that you've built. Stress testing is an important element of financial planning, as it shows worst case scenarios as well as comforting clients that the plan proposed is going to be successful. It empowers financial planners to deliver life-changing financial planning through delivery of a robust financial plan. This results in greater peace of mind for clients who can then go and enjoy using their funds without the fear of running out of money. Every time you run the simulator scenario button, you'll receive a marginally different success rate. As we're running 10,000 scenarios, they will be different each time. The results, however, will vary only between 1 and 2%, and you won't see greater fluctuations regardless of the amount of times that you run it. The average line represents the median of all simulations in any given year. This means that in a given year, 50% of the simulations were below the line and 50% of the simulations were above. The optimistic and pessimistic lines represent the 25th and 75th percentile, or upper and lower quartiles. For example, the optimistic line had 25% of simulations perform better and 75% of simulations perform worse. You can create your own asset allocation template by going into My Account, then Asset Allocation Template. We have created one default template which you can use or modify with your own asset allocation, which can be broadly matched to the funds you're using for a particular client. Our asset allocation reflects the IA sector data, which is provided by FE Analytics. For more information on this, please visit the page we've linked to in the video description below. The performance figures for each sector represent the total investment return net of charges, other than the initial charges if paid, for a basic rate taxpayer, including reinvestment of all dividends from the underlying funds. You can find more about the benchmarks and their underlying composition on the IA website, and click on the link below. We use a historic inflation average with a standard deviation and randomly generate inflation rates based on those values for every simulation. All the sector and inflationary returns are subject to Gaussian distribution, also known as normal distribution. To calculate the randomness, the growth generated in each year is independent of others. The aim of the normal distribution is to generate scenarios that are not widely unbelievable, but are broadly fall in line with the extremities in the behaviour of returns versus inflation over time, therefore creating what we'd refer to as decency limits. Our average is based on the last 30 years of historic returns, but this will obviously vary when looking at different time horizons for the same asset classes. Our focus is to be broadly correct and not exact, as it is a forecast after all and not a prediction, and aims to deliver realistic outcomes for returns on various asset classes. Inflation and returns are already set by using real data instead of you choosing them. We feel that by allowing users to change assumptions, it would introduce too many complexities and would lose the simplicity and therefore the effectiveness of our tool. We are using historical data to set the parameters for future projections. There are 10,000 randomly generated. We use the normal distribution, also known as a bell curve, to generate the growth rates. This way the distribution works so that about 68.2% of the time the growth will be within one standard deviation from the average. About 95% of the time it'll be within 2 standard deviations, and 99% of the time it'll be within 3 standard deviations. For example, if you use the normal distribution with an average of 5 and a standard deviation of 1, there's a 68.2% chance you would get a number between 4 and 6, a 95% chance of getting a number between 3 and 7, and a 99% chance of getting between 2 and 8. We use this to calculate every single growth rate for all 10,000 simulations. The actual average and standard deviation values are determined based on average growth and volatility level of each risk profile or custom asset allocation template. It's worth noting this is not the historical returns of a whole sector, but a static example based on real-world annual data. We are projecting 10,000 random scenarios based on the same maximum, minimum and average returns as that historical example built in 10,000 different sequences of returns. Again, we are considering what is statistically the most likely series of returns would be. Just as with different investment managers, asset allocation will vary between providers. The outcomes, however, will be broadly similar. So we've added templates to give you scale and range of risk levels, as well as the ability to vary this in your own templates. The issue with drilling down into individual asset classes is that it results in unnecessary complexity that does not increase the effectiveness of the financial plan. Gold is a prime example, as you can then go further to give different outcomes for a gold ETF as opposed to physical bullion or an index based on the share prices of gold mining companies. Investment managers, when classifying asset class returns, will often not go into any further detail than alternatives, the rationale of which we agree with. The same goes, for example, when adding an equity sector as an asset class, without going into detail of whether they are small or large cap, or sector specific such as banking or technology. We therefore add broad asset classes which will have negative correlation and demonstrate the benefits of diversification. So the whole purpose of the Monte Carlo simulator is to give your clients further peace of mind and to further stress test the financial plan, allowing you to give more effective financial planning. Although it might seem complex in terms of the amount of calculations going along in the background, you can overlay it over a financial plan to show a client that you've thought of 10,000 scenarios on top of the existing plan, just to give them the peace of mind that they can continue and enjoy their lifestyle without the fear of running out of money.